What are the constitutional issues related to secession? The question of whether a state can legally leave the United States raises important constitutional issues, especially in the context of the American Civil War. This debate centers on how the United States Constitution is interpreted and what it means for the nature of the Union. At the core of this discussion is the concept of states' rights. Many supporters of secession argued that, because the states created the federal government, they should have the right to leave if they felt the federal government was overstepping its authority. This belief was particularly strong in the southern states, where many felt that the federal government was threatening their rights, especially regarding slavery. However, the United States Constitution does not specifically address the issue of secession. There is no clear clause that either permits or prohibits a state from leaving the Union. This ambiguity led to heated legal and political debates. Southern states pointed to the 10th Amendment, which states that powers not granted to the federal government are reserved for the states or the people. They believed this supported their claim to secede, viewing themselves as sovereign entities capable of withdrawing their consent to be governed. On the other hand, opponents of secession, including President Abraham Lincoln, maintained that the Union was meant to be permanent and indivisible. They argued that the Constitution established a single nation rather than a loose collection of independent states. From this perspective, secession was not a legal option but rather an act of rebellion. The Supreme Court addressed this issue directly after the Civil War in the case of Texas versus White in 1869. The court ruled that the Union was intended to be permanent and that secession was unconstitutional. This ruling reinforced the idea that states could not unilaterally leave the United States. During the Civil War, the secession debate was not just a legal matter but also a significant political issue. The withdrawal of Southern states and their representatives from Congress created a constitutional crisis. The federal government treated secession as rebellion, which shaped its response to the Civil War and influenced how it dealt with states attempting to leave the Union. The constitutional issues surrounding secession had real consequences for the nation. The Civil War was fought partly over whether states had the right to leave the Union. The federal government's refusal to recognize secession led to military conflict and the eventual defeat of the Confederate states. Following the war, the Supreme Court's ruling in Texas versus White settled the legal question from the federal viewpoint, declaring secession unconstitutional. In essence, the constitutional issues related to secession revolve around how the Constitution is interpreted, the nature of the Union, and the balance of power between the federal government and the states. The American Civil War tested these issues, and the federal government's stance, that secession is illegal, remains the prevailing legal view in the United States today. Many Southerners believed secession was a constitutional right, while the federal government and northern states viewed it as illegal and rebellious. This disagreement was a central cause of the war and shaped the nation's understanding of federalism and states' rights.